made with cheese.
Oh, Steve, look, you must have gotten that fooled up somehow. No, that can't be.
It's Welsh rabbit.
No, Steve, come on, hey.
Yes, Mr. Know-It-All. I'll prove you're wrong. Where's my iPad?
Works every time.
Yum, 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 yum.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of One Chef One Critic. I'm Karl Wells, food critic for The Telegram.
And I'm Chef Steve Watson of Central Dairies.
Well, Steve, since we have a lot of cheese on the board today, why don't we talk about it for a while?
Absolutely, Carl. When buying cheese at the grocery store, always make sure you check the code date there, or the expiry date, because if it's coming too close to code, you're not going to get a good shelf life out of it.
That's best before date.
Best before date, that's correct. And if you're buying a blue vein cheese like so, always make sure you wrap it a couple of times before you put it in the fridge, because it'll permeate and the flavours will go through. It'll be stinky. Absolutely. And the other thing, if you're going to be grating cheese, always bring the cheese at the last minute from the fridge, so it's nice and firm, there's no moisture content there, and of course then it'll just grate like so.
Excellent, yeah. I'll give you a little tip now.
What's that, Carl?
You know how cheese clings to the inside of the grater?
Yes.
Just wipe it down with vegetable oil and it will slide right through.
Perfect.
Tip, right?
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, coming up in the program today, we have as our guest Amanda O'Brien. Amanda has her own business called Recipe for Health, and they are in the business of consulting about, nutrition, that sort of thing. So we're going to have to be on our P's and Q's today with Amanda, I guess, in terms of what we serve. What are we making?
We're going to be making a sole mornay with some grilled vegetables.
Sounds pretty healthy. And coming up as well, we have Chef Ishiwata of Basho restaurant, and he's going to be doing a tuna taco, which also sounds pretty healthy, so stick around. For a complete listing of One Chef One Critic recipes, wine lists, and more, check out our website. Let us know what you think of the show at 757-9600. And we are back with Amanda O'Brien, and welcome to One Chef One Critic.
Thank you.
Well, Steve and I are a little bit nervous about you.
You better believe
because,
it.
being a dietitian and all, we wanted to make sure we had a pretty decent meal for you. What are we actually doing?
Actually, what we're going to be doing, Carl and Amanda, is we're going to make a sole mornay. So we're going to be making a little bit of cheese sauce there. Well, you'll be making. Carl's going to be grilling some beautiful vegetables there. We've got some radicchio, some asparagus tips, and some fennel. So let's get started. I think what we'll do for a start, we'll put some butter in there, and we're going to be doing equal portions of butter and flour. So I'll let you do that.
Perfect.
So Amanda, tell me now, you're a dietitian. I always get dietitians and nutritionists mixed up.
Right.
What's the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist?
There is a difference here in our province. The term dietitian is regulated by law. So what that means is a dietitian has to go through specific training, like a university degree, an internship program, and also a national exam to call themselves a dietitian. And they also belong to a provincial regulatory college. So that just means we have the public's protection at heart when it comes to the advice that we give. For a nutritionist, some dietitians may call themselves nutritionists, so it can be a little bit confusing. But nutritionists basically don't have that protected title, so anyone could essentially call themselves a nutritionist.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here, I've just got some fillets of sole, some wild sole. I'm just going to fold them and roll them over, and then we're going to be putting some white wine over that, a little bit of seasoning, and we're going to pop that into the oven.
Okay.
So is the topic of food and nutrition something that always interested you? Like when you were a little girl, were you looking at a piece of chicken and wondering what kind of minerals and vitamins were in it?
Not necessarily. I think it was more when I finished high school, I kind of asked myself, what am I going to do for my career? And I really wasn't sure. And I had a couple friends who were taking nutrition courses at Memorial University, so I just kind of went along with that, and I ended up falling in love. So that's how it started, really. Yeah.
So is that where you did your studies?
Yes, yeah, at MUN, and you do a final year at Acadia.
Ah, and
So
that's
put
in
the flour in
Nova
there, that'll
Scotia.
make our roux.
Okay.
So I have to ask you this. Do you always practice what you preach, or does a little KFC and that sort of thing sneak into your diet from time to time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only human, right? So I do have the occasional fish and chips and all those foods. But it's all about moderation and making sure that you're eating healthy most of the time.
Right,
And
yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. And then you can, not feel guilty about having the fries, dressing, and gravy, or whatever that treat it is that you
that makes
enjoy.
sense,
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can just ask you to stand back, so I'm just going to pop that into the oven now. And I'm not covering the top of it either, so I'm just going
There
to
we
pop
go.
that straight in.
In it goes.
And we'll leave it in there for about 15 minutes.
All right.
Okay? By that time it should be ready.
Amanda, there's sort of a real proliferation of books about nutrition and diet over the past 5 or 6 years. There are books now that say grains are bad for you. There are books that say, well, you name it.
Yeah.
It's considered to be bad for you. How are people supposed to wade their way through all of this information and pick what's actually good and bad, or what may work for them?
Well, you asked me what the difference was between a dietitian and a nutritionist. So I think, probably the first thing that people should do is make sure they're getting information from a credible source. So whether that's through a healthcare professional or, somewhere online, or, just make sure you're getting the right source of information. But it certainly can be confusing.
And of course, we all know with the internet, there are a lot of sites there that have a lot of garbage on them.
Yes.
And there are some sites which are quite good, but you have to be wary.
You do. You have to be wary. So again, making sure you can trust that source of information is really important.
What do you think to some of the ingredients that are listed on some of these containers today?
The length of the ingredients?
The length of the ingredients.
Yeah. Certainly a lot of foods, processed foods, can have lengthy ingredient lists. So, one of my mottos is always to try and eat as close to natural as possible, or less ingredients, and making things from scratch. So, trying to cook like we are here today is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've used a lactose-free milk today. I'm using Naturel.
Okay,
for our
interesting.
mornay. Although we use butter in the roux, I've chosen to use the lactose-free milk.
Now, for a long time, and this goes back much farther than 5 or 6 years, it goes back maybe 20, 25, 30 years, people have demonized sugar. I mean, and said it's kind of the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Is sugar as bad for us as it's made out to be?
Well, there's different kinds of sugar. So there's sugar that's naturally occurring in foods, like the vegetables that we have here, or the cheese, or the milk. And certainly those sugars are what our body needs to run, so for our mind to think and our muscles to move, and we need those sugars. But there's also simple sugars, so things like table sugar or honey or soft drinks, like
Corn
those.
syrup.
Exactly, that would be a simple sugar. So those ones you definitely want to limit as much as possible, and they can certainly lead to things you don't want. So excess weight, or problems down the road. So depends on the kind of sugar. So you want to make sure that you know what kind of sugar people are referring to, because certainly fruits and vegetables are good for you, milk products are good for you, right? And you don't want to avoid those things in your diet.
Yeah. But now there's one topic that I want to touch on, which I just heard about recently. A lot of scientists and people in the field now are saying that they had been kind of misleading the general public in terms of low fat.
Right.
That it's fat. Animal fat is maybe not all that bad. It's another kind of fat that's really bad, trans fats and that sort of thing.
Right. So I guess the thing with the low fat was that people were consuming low fat foods back in the 80s, but they were also having higher intakes of things like carbohydrates or protein to offset the low fat. We still have to have taste in low fat foods, right? So you're still probably consuming just as many or more calories. So low fat probably didn't necessarily work. You'd have to look at the whole diet in a picture, right? For saturated and trans fats, certainly those are the bad fats. And bad meaning like they can promote heart disease, and we certainly don't want you certainly don't want too much of that in your diet. Saturated fat depends on the source of. Saturated fat can be harmful, but it really depends on the source. So you were saying how some fats are not as bad as what we thought they were. Saturated fat being one. So, for example, coconut oil is a big thing these days, and there's a lot of saturated fat in that, but it's not necessarily bad for our heart, as bad as, say, probably fats from the fish and chips we occasionally have, right? So trans fats are certainly the most harmful. Saturated fat depends on the source.
Now, we have a lot of food banks in the province. Community food sharing associations frequently putting out the call for people to donate to the food banks.
Right.
And I think it's really important that the food that food banks dispense is really nutritionally high, or has a high nutritional value. Can you recommend some things that people maybe should be thinking about in terms of giving to the food banks?
Certainly. So it's really important to give to the food bank. And obviously, if you can give a product that you would have in your own home, is what I would recommend. So if you can give, canned fruits or veggies, obviously you want something that's shelf stable. So for milk products, probably some skim milk powder. Dry cereals work really well, canned meats or fish. So again, thinking along the lines of health, thinking along the lines of the 4 food groups, and something that's shelf stable, but it's certainly really important.
Okay. Well, another thing which is important on this show is wine. So I'm going to go down to the wine cellar and see if we can get a wine to go with this meal. And keep an eye on my veggies.
I will do, Carl. I'll make sure we don't burn them. What I'm going to do, well, what we're going to do at the end, Amanda, we're just going to add some egg yolks into there, like a sabayon.
Okay.
And so when we pour this over the top of the sole, we'll glaze it. It could go underneath the broiler, or we'll just use a burner on the top of it, so it'll just be a nice burn on there. But I think it's all natural. It's got all as natural as we can get today, that's for sure.
It looks good.
Yeah, and I think the consistency is just about right there.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello,
How are you?
Karl.
Nice to see you. Well, we have sole today, a fish that I don't get to eat very often, so I'm really looking forward to tasting this dish. It's kind of a classic dish, sole mornay. Mornay sauce, of course, has cheese and milk.
Yes.
So a few things going on with this particular dish. What sorts of wines do you think will pair well with it?
Well, to start with, I love sole. I think it's a beautiful fish, very delicate, and the sauce is very rich, so sounds fantastic. I have 3 options for you.
Good.
The first option is a wine from Spain. It's white garnacha. The name is Clos del Pinel. It comes from the northern region of Spain by the Mediterranean, so it has a lot of character, lovely acidity, which we need that in the dish. And this wine is retails for $16.
Okay. Yep.
My second choice is one of my favorite ones, Albarino, Condes de Albaret, and is beautiful, full-bodied as well, and lots of green fruit, very tasty. And
it's a beautiful wine, yeah.
Lovely
Tasty
aromas.
is a good word. 'Cause
Yes.
that's a wine that's just a nice quaffing wine.
Yes.
Separate from food, I find.
Absolutely.
Anyway. I really like that
by
wine.
itself or with the fish.
Yeah.
And
So which part of Spain does this come
this is from Galicia.
Okay. Yeah.
Rye, but it has a lot of influence by the Atlantic Sea, so very mineral.
Yeah, a lot of minerality, great. And what's this one?
My last suggestion, which is one of my favorite ones, is a brand new product that we have in Newfoundland, and is from the producer George Michel in New Zealand.
I recognize the name. Yes, I interviewed George Michel. You introduced me to him.
Yes, absolutely. What a passionate winemaker.
Yeah. So Georges Michel came from France. He was a winemaker in Burgundy.
Yes.
He went to New Zealand on vacation.
Yes.
And decided this is where I have to live and make wine.
He loved it. He found the right terroir, and actually comes from the region of Golden Mile, which is a particular area.
That's right.
So the style of this wine is really excellent. It's very much like a French Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so he brought those French winemaking skills to New Zealand. And
yes.
So we've got the best of both worlds going on here.
Absolutely.
New Zealand terroir and the French skills in winemaking. I'm going to go with this Georges Michel because I love Sauvignon Blanc, and I'm anxious to see what he did with this one.
Yes,
Thank you.
It's a great choice.
Now this glazing on the top of the sole mornay, you can either broil that in the oven underneath the broiler, or as you can see, I'm just using a blowtorch here. So we'll just turn that off. I'll let it run down, and we'll go and see Amanda and Karl in the dining room and see how they're going to enjoy it.
Here we go. Steve, I noticed you bruleed the top.
I did indeed, Karl, didn't I?
That was quite impressive, I must say. A nice little finishing touch. Okay, Amanda, have a taste of this sole, Mornay, and see what you think of it. It looks really good.
It looks delicious. So good.
I think it's a keeper, Karl.
It tastes good and it's good for you. Right, right, Amanda?
Can't be better. Can't be better than that.
So, Amanda, I want to just ask you a couple of more questions before we dig in here. Tell us about your business.
Okay.
What do you do? What kind of service do you provide to people?
So my business is Recipe for Health, and I have an office where I see people one-on-one for health concerns like diabetes or heart health, or people trying to lose weight. So they're often self-referred, or a doctor will refer them to come see me. And I also do a lot of presentations. So I'll come to a workplace and do a lunch and learn presentation, or do a workplace wellness seminar for different companies. So I'm kept pretty busy doing a variety of different things. And in addition to that, I also write for the Telegram. So I have a column on Thursdays called On Your Plate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you must be asked questions all the time. What's the most frequently asked question?
Yeah, I get a lot of questions because everyone eats food, and nutrition is such a popular topic. Perhaps the biggest question I get these days is about gluten-free diets, and whether to go wheat-free or gluten-free. So that's a popular one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I notice more and more restaurants are starting to offer gluten-free options now.
And the grocery stores, whole sections.
Right,
for that
yeah,
as well.
certainly. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I was looking at your website, and there's something there which intrigued me. It's called Nutrigenomics, which is some kind of genetic test for personalized nutrition. What is that?
Right, so it's called nutrigenomics, and it's eating according to your genes. So basically, we collect a saliva sample, and it gets sent away to a laboratory in Toronto, and it codes your, it looks at your genetic code to see if you're susceptible to getting things like cancer or diabetes, or to be overweight, and then basically it gives you a personalized diet based on 7 different genes that it looks at. So
That's wild.
Yeah, it's the future of nutrition for sure.
So I wouldn't think that Medicare would take care of that. Is it an expensive thing to have done?
It's an out-of-pocket expense. MCP, yeah, they won't pay for that. So it's, if someone is interested, then they would have to upfront the cost for that. And certainly it's...
Is it in the hundreds or thousands?
Hundreds.
Hundreds,
yeah.
Okay.
It's not unaffordable, certainly, if someone wants to go ahead with the testing.
That's fascinating, though,
it
that
is
they
really,
can do that.
Yeah, it's really cool. So for me, I had it done, and it came back to say that I'm at risk for high blood pressure and heart disease, hopefully not in the near future. So basically, I had some personalized dietary suggestions based on that. So yeah.
So it allows you to kind of plan ahead for the future,
Right.
and hopefully make a better future,
Right,
brighter
exactly.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the program, and I want to congratulate you on having that entrepreneurial spirit and opening up your own business. Sounds like it's going great guns. Congratulations on that. And who knows? I may stop in and have that test done to see what's in my crystal ball. Maybe it's too late, but anyway.
Never too late.
Here we go. Cheers to you.
Cheers,
Thank
absolutely.
you, Amanda
Thank you.
O'Brien. And we will be back with Chef Tak Ishiwata of Basho after this. Basho on Duckworth Street is the city's only fine dining restaurant serving authentic Japanese cuisine, like utterly amazing sushi, for example. But they also serve several classic Western dishes as well. Steve and I have been fans of Basho for a long, long time, and we're once again delighted to welcome Tak Ishiwata of Basho to our program today. Hi, Tak.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Okay, what are we doing?
Today we're going to do a rendition of a fish taco.
Oh, nice, okay.
Bit of Japanese flair there.
Yeah.
But today we're just going to heat up this pan for the tuna that I'm
Yep.
this here.
Nice and hot, that's for sure.
But today I chose to use a lot of domestic ingredients, being that I usually use stuff that are a little bit hard
People
to come
can't
by.
get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, here we go. I got some tuna here, and again, that's available locally.
Yeah, and you use nothing but the best tuna.
Exactly. Well, I'll try to.
Yeah.
What kind of grade of tuna is that?
This is sushi grade.
Sushi
So
grade,
it does come prepared for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just gonna.
A bit of salt on there?
Yeah, a
is it?
little bit
Season?
more than usual actually, because all the other ingredients are a little bit fresh.
Yeah.
Little sea salt, a little cracked pepper, white pepper, and we'll just do that.
So you say a lot of the ingredients are available in the city as well?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
The only unusual ingredient we're using today is miso.
Okay.
And you can get that at the Magic Walk grocery
Yeah.
downtown. So again, it's just a light sear. We don't want to overcook the fish.
No, no.
So we might just do 2 sides.
So what would you say? Maybe 30 seconds per side, or
Maybe if it's hot enough, 10 seconds a side. I'm just going to do 2 sides here today.
Yeah. Because then you'll still see that colour coming through.
Exactly, yeah.
it would take most of us much longer using chopsticks to turn.
Actually, that was kind of a poor job on my part today.
No, I wasn't going to say that. No, no.
Yeah, so
Do you eat a lot of fish personally, Tack?
do I? I tend to eat a lot of McDonald's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we won't go there.
Yeah, that's good enough. I'm going to move just a little bit more. Instead of using a taco shell today, we're just going to use a Belgian endive.
Okay. So almost like fingerlings, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's see now. We'll just
It's kind of a low-calorie taco.
It is, yeah. And I've got some creme fraiche here, which is just a combination of whipped cream and sour cream with a little bit of
Okay.
lime zest and lime.
In lieu of the grated Monterey Jack cheese.
There we go.
That looks nice.
And oh no, gotta put some of this on there. This is my miso.
And what have you got in the miso?
Sorry, it's a barley miso.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bit sweet. I do have some plum wine in it as well.
Oh, that
But we
sounds
can
nice.
substitute some late harvest apple ice wine for that as well.
Oh my goodness, what are you
Yeah.
going to do now?
We're gonna torch that so it's not so nice.
Thanks for warning me.
Hey, come on, this is pretty normal.
Now, if you were doing this at home, you wouldn't probably want to use one of those, would you? Or
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's the best way to get some heat.
yeah.
And I'm gonna get my presentation plate here.
I'll just move that out.
I thought
Thank
you were
you.
going to mend a pipe while you were.
I can do that too.
Look at that.
Very quick, very easy.
And to finish it off, I've got. Oh, crap.
One tipped over. It always happens when
It
you're on
does
television.
usually.
Yeah.
Got a fresh salsa here of cucumber, serrano peppers, red onion, cilantro, lime juice, vinegar,
Nice.
and a little bit of fish
Just
stock.
going to add a little bit of.
I've got fish stock in there. That's the.
Exactly. There's a little bit of
Okay.
fish stock and a little bit of light soy
Make
as
it a
well.
little bit zesty, which
Yeah.
is nice.
And we'll just finish off with this is just grated daikon, which is this radish here.
Let's have a look at the daikon there. Is that, are they grown?
Oh, your very own daikon.
These are not grown locally, are they?
No, actually, Leicester's farm, a bunch of the organic farms, I know Leicester's
Really?
in the
Yeah,
fall, in
yeah.
the fall, yeah, actually. Mom stocks up in the fall.
Right.
They look amazing, Tack.
Yeah.
They really do. So, is it okay if I taste one?
Yeah,
now?
please go ahead.
I'll just have a little.
He's usually the first to eat, you know.
Steve,
Yeah.
tipped over one there for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go.
That's lovely. When you're serving
coming through it, yeah.
seafood, you really do need something with a little bit of acidity to kind of
Acid,
balance it
salt,
off, right?
it's
Yeah.
all a balance, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tack, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on the show again. And that's it for this edition of
One chef.
One Critic.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Good.